Tonight, disturbing new reporting about a police youth program linked to nearly 200 allegations of sex abuse and misconduct across the country. An investigation by the Marshall Project in partnership with NBC News finds that law enforcement personnel are accused of grooming, sexually abusing, or engaging in some type of inappropriate behavior with teens and young adults enrolled in an Explorer program, as it's called. The majority of those affected are teenage girls, some as young as 13.
The story really centers on one woman in particular. Her name is Sandra Birchmore. And when she was 13 years old, she joined her local police Explorer post in Stoughton, Massachusetts, which is about an hour outside of Boston. And she really admired police officers. She wanted to become an officer one day. And she stayed in the program from age 13 all the way through high school. About a decade later, so February 2021, she was 23 years old and newly pregnant, and she was found dead from an apparent suicide. One of the last people believed to have seen her alive was one of the officers that she met through the program, through the Explorer post. And an internal police investigation conducted after her death found that that officer, as well as his brother, who was an officer and also an Explorer mentor, as well as a third officer who was a veteran who oversaw the program, had separate sexual relationships with Sandra in her early 20s. After her death, her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the three officers as well as the Stoughton Police Department in the town of Stoughton. That lawsuit is ongoing, and earlier this year, a judge in a ruling allowing that lawsuit to continue, a part of his decision included text messages that the police investigation uncovered in which one of the officers acknowledges having sex with Sandra when she was 15 years old.
Hey guys, it's me here, Lavender here, and today I want to talk about how police officers, predators, preyed on vulnerable teens in the Boy Scouts Police Officer Explorer program, a capitalism atrocity. But before we get started, all my YouTube videos related to this topic right now will be on the screen right now, as well as also in the description down below if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this YouTube video. But before we get started, I have made a full-length video on the Boy Scouts. So if you want to check that out, again, the link will be in the description and also on the screen right now if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started in this YouTube video topic. The last known person to see Sandra Birchmore alive was a police officer. He stopped by her apartment days before the elementary school teacher's aide, 23-year-old and newly pregnant, was found dead in February 2021. The medical examiner later ruled her death a suicide. The officer worked for the Stoughton Town Police Department near Boston, where he first met Birchmore about a decade earlier through the agency's Explorer post, part of the youth mentorship program run by local departments across the country. He acknowledged having sex with her when she was 15, aka rape, according to a court ruling citing the officer's text messages. That document indicates that his twin brother, also an officer, an Explorer mentor, and a third station officer, a veteran, who ran the program, eventually had sex with her too as well. These assertions, disclosed in an internal police investigation report and through an ongoing lawsuit filed by Birchmore's family, has sparked demonstrations and an online petition asking for further investigation into her death. Could she have been taken out for being a whistleblower by these police that did that to her? The youth program that introduced Birchmore to the officers is among hundreds of such chapters at police agencies and the country created by the Boy Scouts of America decades ago. Law enforcement Explorer posts are designed to help teens and young adults learn about policing, which is a massive red flag because the Boy Scouts are known for having sexual predators and pedophiles in their ranks, covering up the crimes, covering up the truth. And also, police only serve capitalism and capitalism interests. This is a massive recipe for disaster. A known predator organization with pedophiles in its ranks and fascist police state Mixed together, it can only end in disaster. The police need to be abolished. Birchmore's case is among at least 194 allegations that law enforcement personnel, mostly policemen, have groomed, sexually abused, raped, engaged in inappropriate behavior with explorers since 1974. An ongoing investigation by the vast majority of those affected were teenage girls, some as young as only 13 years old. In many programs, armed officers were allowed to be alone with teenage explorers. In a few instances, departments minimized or completely dismissed the concerns of those who reported the troubling behavior. Records show the officers accused of abusing teenagers spanned the ranks, from patrolmen to police chiefs. Some were department veterans cited in news articles for their community work. A handful had serviced their agencies for barely a year, and some were married men with families of their own. Many cases led to criminal charges. Some officers went to prison, while others received probation or weren't required to register as a sex offender. And this is called, like the police get away with this on a daily basis. A few departments allowed officers to keep their jobs after this or a short suspension. Again, police are never held accountable. The Marshall Project's analysis found that at least 14 police departments among 111 agencies that had a history of repeated allegations. Reporters found abuse allegations in big and small police departments spanning much of the country. In Connecticut, an officer first tried to ply a 17-year-old explorer with compliments and a silver bracelets. After being rejected on multiple occasions, he lured her into a vacant house and sexually assaulted her, according to police records and lawsuit. In South Miami, Florida, police records show a detective offered to teach teenagers about sex before he assaulted them. And in California, in Porterville, California, a sergeant who led his department's Explorer program took a 17-year-old alone to ride-alongs and complained to her about his wife and marital problems, according to a now-settled lawsuit. Sometimes it took years for an officer to face any actual repercussions from these allegations. In 2004, a police sergeant in the small city of Brownwood, Texas, known for basically sexually harassing female colleagues. According to a criminal investigation by the Texas Ranger, she told investigators she left the program after the officer followed her into a storage room and groped her. She had to push him out of the way to escape. And 2.5 years later, age 53, the sergeant was arrested for sexually abusing a different explorer who was 15 years old. He was later convicted for both assaults and is now incarcerated in prison. Troy Carnival, a Brownwood lieutenant who assisted with the investigation, said he was supported holding the sergeant accountable and that was overall the Explorers was a great program. The city reportedly agreed to pay $300,000 settlement with one of the victims in 2010. In St. Bernard County, California, a sheriff's deputy faced felony charges in 2017 related to having sex with a teenage Explorer participant. He ultimately pled guilty to a single misdemeanor assault charge and served probation. Court records show 4 years later, authorities were seeking help to identify more of the man's victims after an allegation that he had sexually abused a young family member for years. He's now serving a decades-long prison sentence for child sexual abuse. The police are dangerous. They take out all the whistleblowers all the time. You're not safe around the police. Evil. They only serve capitalism. And honestly, the Boy Scouts is a massive red flag.